Here, live from New Hampshire. And here we are in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we had a white Thanksgiving. I'm dreaming of a white Thanksgiving. No, it's the wrong song, Ted. I'm sorry. Christmas. That's it. White Christmas. Well, maybe we'll get that. This is the Rudy Giuliani. The outskirts of Manchester, New Hampshire, heading a teeny bit north toward Concord, which is the capital of the live free or die state. The reason we come here is because Ted and I are big proponents of live free or die, since we lived through that for the last four. During the Biden administration, that was actually the slogan by which I lived. I either live free or I died. Since they did everything, they did everything else to me but shoot at me. They didn't pay much attention with the two plots to kill me, though. No interest at all. When 4 people were arrested in Albania, threatening to kill me and Madame Rajavi, and not threatening to, they had the plans, the bombs, everything else. Big trial there. They helped me. They protected me. The Biden administration didn't give a shit. Well, looks like Ramanullah Lakanwal, a beneficiary of the Biden, anybody can come into America who wants to, because we will not ask any questions, we will not know, we will not vet, and when we do vet, we won't get any information. He is now going to be charged tragically because, again, I remember the words of Jeanine Pirro on Thanksgiving morning that she wished that she wasn't going to have to charge that. Well, she has to charge it now, and I think I detect, not only with the leader, the president, but I think I detect within his administration, they've had it. They've had it up to, you get up to here, up to here, up to here, up to here. I was sort of up to here, and Ted and I were both up to here a long time ago at Lake and Riley, and all the nonsense about that. And a guy came in from Venezuela, and they described him as a man from Athens, Georgia, and the press got all upset. And they're on the murderer and the rapist side. A Democratic senator goes down to Latin America and tries to bring an illegal member of Transderogro back. He does bring him back. The wife is sitting. The wife had put in 2 years earlier in a video how this guy beat the living daylights out of her with the kid in her hand. But then she was forced to support his coming back because everybody from Venezuela would have killed her. That's why. I do not know what has happened to the Democrat Party, but it's easy for me to deal with because it's very much like it was when I was dealing with the mafia. They have no sense of morals. They have no sense of right and wrong. You can figure out what they're going to do based on their calculation of what's going to help them. Not what's going to help them help America. What's going to help them help their, whatever it is, their desire to gain money, their desire to gain power, their desire to have a superior ideology, otherwise known as socialism and communism. There is no room left for what's best for America. What's best for America is what's best for communism. And the reality is these murders that have now taken place, I think, have put us beyond the point of no return. And the president is going back to where he started, isn't he? And this is how I first got involved with him. I'm going to tell you the story in a moment. But the president is going to lift the green cards on people from any of the suspect countries. Oh, that goes back to 2015, doesn't it? And he said then He said then in a statement that, look, it was his first day as a candidate, and this is not, he didn't mean, well, he didn't mean exactly that. And then, of course, I put together a group of lawyers with Judge Mukasey, a group of other people, and we narrowed it to something that he could do that was perfectly constitutional, perfectly legal, and he's doing it right now. Biden purported to do it, except never did it. And what was that? You might remember when he first came down the famous elevator in 2019. The president said that, I'll quote it. There'd be a shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until a country's representatives can figure out what is going on. Now, what that translated into, and what he meant by that, and we clarified this quickly in a short document, and then much later on in a much more complex document and a government program. And that is, yes, it did turn out that the large number of countries so happened to be Muslim because they were most of the terrorism in the world, but it encompassed areas of the world like the border between France and Spain and places like that where there's a hotbed of terrorism. Any place that has more of a possibility of sending terrorists into our country than just a normal place. Back then, you would never have thought of England or France. Now, with the Muslims taking over England, we may have to put England in the category of a Muslim country. You think I'm offering that as a joke? No, I'm not. I'm offering that as a brokenhearted lover of Western civilization and English history, and a great admirer of the contributions of the English to the legal system that we used to have, and a great admirer to the English system, to the literature and the drama and the poetry and the order and the democracy that we have. You make it a Muslim country, that's all gone. I mean, Sharia law bears no relationship to that. Sharia law makes justice in the West of America look benign. Sharia law is the law of the desert, of illiterate, uneducated, in large part heavily violent people who kill and ask questions later. And they got a leader who fit. The leader was the second version of Muhammad after he was kicked out by his own people and the Jews and the Christians. He became a rabid warrior. And being a rabid warrior appealed to the tribes, the Bedouin tribes in particular, that were based on a basis of violence. They were not a civilized, cultured group of people like the Arabs that he had originally been trying to convince that he was a messenger of God. They thought he was a madman. And then some of them who I guess had their own spirituality thought he was a creature from Satan, particularly when he would break into his convulsions that they say came from epilepsy. Well, of course, we've never seen a diagnosis of epilepsy, nor have we seen much evidence really that Muhammad lived. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just saying there is scant evidence that Muhammad lived. So the president's going back. All those people are going to be scrutinized. They're going to be looked over carefully. We're going to be really, really carefully in giving visas to people from Somalia. Somalia is an extraordinarily violent country. The Congresswoman who came into the United States, my goodness, when was it? I'm looking for the date. Was it 2019? She'd been in Congress since 2019. Yeah. Shortly before that, she became a citizen. And of course, I tried very hard to get an answer like, was she married to her brother? And then, well, you can't tell. Well, sure you can tell. You look at her applications. Has anybody seen her applications, Ted? I mean, the allegation is that Elon Omar. I mean, you want the what? So she's been a U.S. citizen, and she came in on some kind of program, refugee program, and the allegation was she came in and she was married to somebody who had, if not American citizenship, some form of a green card to be in America, and that was enough at the time. The real question about Omar, when you listen to what she says, when you listen to her deep hatred of the Jewish people, which is really equivalent to a hatred for us, the American people, you wonder just how closely associated she is to the massive corruption that's going on in the Somalia community right now, where millions and millions of dollars are being discovered that were earmarked toward the terrorist groups in Somalia, money that was the extraordinary largesse from the pandemic. You know, we would wonder who can spend all that money. People were making more money through various pandemic schemes than they would working. Apparently, the Somalia or Somalian, whatever, however you would say that, organizations were sending that money to Somalia, but not to necessarily help Mama and Papa, but to help Al-Shabaab, which you may recall was and is an Iranian-sponsored massive Christian and Jew killing organization. Please don't just say terrorist group. Let's get specific. Who are the targets of their terrorism? Those who don't believe in Muhammad, which are often represented as Jews and Christians. So in Africa, where you don't have many Jews, they feast on killing Christians. In Asia, that also will happen if you have some Christians hanging around. I mean, there were a lot more Christians in Lebanon. They're either dead or fled. And Lebanon is one of the great places for Christian conversion, right? St. Paul. Also, as often happens when you see this martyrdom going on, fastest growing religion in Africa is the Christian religion. And this is a combination of both the Roman Catholic and the evangelical version of Protestantism. Want to make a theological analysis of it? It's the forms of Christianity, although different in many ways, but the forms of Christianity that have substance to them. The forms of Christianity that don't pick up every woke, insane, inhuman, immoral practice of society incorporated into their church, and then their church becomes, well, I think it's quite appropriate that a number of the Episcopal churches in New York became nightclubs where, gosh, when I was made, we used to bust them for drugs and illegal sex. They were originally Episcopalian churches. Now that, of course, is not where all of the Episcopalian church has gone, but enough of it has gone that way, so you have a schism in the Episcopalian church, certainly in Africa. You have any number of African bishops, Anglican bishops, who do not consider themselves now guided by the Church of England. I don't know what their affiliation is. There's some vague affiliation, but they have a whole group of different moral practices. Well, it's from that cauldron of insanity that Ram Manullah Lakanwal came to the United States. He had worked with America. He had helped Americans, apparently without incident. But other than that, his mental health and none of that was checked. He just got on a plane and came over, and all of a sudden he's with us. And now he's been radicalized. And I am enormously offended by those people, particularly the Democrats, who refuse to acknowledge that this is an Islamic extremist killing. The man was radicalized and wasn't keeping it silent. He was yelling Allah Akbar. And if you yell Allah Akbar, you do not have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out the motive for that murder. If I murder in the name of Jesus, nobody's going to try real hard to figure out my motive. New York Times is going to say, I became a crazy white nationalist Christian. That's what they're going to say. And maybe they'd be right. I don't know. I don't know if there are such things. I've never met one. Have you? I mean, I guess they exist, but I've never met a murdering white Christian, nor do I remember that on Christian holidays, there's a real fear that lots of people in the world are going to get killed. Since I can remember, Ramadan has become, I mean, at first, before I studied the religion, I thought Ramadan was a day in which everybody went out and killed people. Because you'd get the warnings. Ramadan is coming. Be careful about flying here. Be careful about flying there. You get any such warnings for Easter, Christmas, Yom Kippur? Yeah, the Jews come out of the synagogue on Yom Kippur and just go around shooting people, right? We've seen all those riots. So this, I think, is the straw that broke the camel's back. And once again, emerging from the, I would imagine, the nursing home for the seriously infirm, where the first stepmother has him locked up because she doesn't want to bother with him and feed him anymore. Operation Allies Welcome turned out to be a completely prostituted program that brought unbelievably large numbers of terrorists into this country. Now, a number of them are weeded out. But since we don't know how many we really brought in, and we know we didn't weed out all of them for sure, there's some are still here. We don't know what the level of the problem they present to us. We do know that they present a problem to us, and we saw it firsthand in the shooting that took place. There was something like 76,000 Afghans were admitted. And we really have no records on them. The only thing we have about them is we have their names, at least, and a little teeny. We have no records on the Venezuelans that have come in from the now darling of the left, Maduro, who turns out to be someone who's being so poorly treated by Trump. It's such a shame. Trump is interrupting him in his sending fentanyl and really, in this case, more cocaine to the United States. They're interrupting him in fixing elections. There is an allegation that, of course, is very sensitive because when this was made, the election counting companies went wild and crazy. But there was an allegation that a group of them from the main companies had gone down to Venezuela to work on Chavez's reelection, and that it was from that a lot of the expertise and the core of the machine that could cheat was developed, and that is that is spelled out in the movie Kill Chain, which you can still get online. I'm surprised you can, because the people who wrote it went off in the wind, because they actually were blaming election fraud then on Republicans. It became legal when the Democrats did it. There is no possible way that I am skilled enough or good enough to express what is in, I'm sure, your heart and my heart to the Beckstrom family. The young lady, Sarah, when you just look at her, what do you see? You see a beautiful, beautiful young lady who took up a career in the United States military and volunteered that day. Why is it always the good ones, the best ones, not just the good ones, but the best ones? Why is it always the best ones that end up being sacrificed like that? I guess it was like the martyrdom in the early church. We lost some of the best ones that way. Here is, if we could show this, Ted, I'd like to, well, I'm gonna make sure I have the right one first of all. That's that's Sarah. I guess that was taken a short while ago when she was with her unit. She couldn't be in the military more than a year. And she volunteered to do Thanksgiving duty because she's not married and doesn't have children. Well, she's now in heaven. Her parents are bearing the brunt of that, suffering from the loss of this extraordinary, fine young woman who gave her life for her country. And now the debate is who's responsible for her death. Is it Trump who deployed the National Guard for no reason? Well, we know for sure there is one person primarily responsible for it, and he's an Islamic extremist who killed her in the name of Muhammad and came all the way from the very left-wing, radical, pretty close to insane state of Washington, where if you don't have at least 2 accidents a year bumping into somebody because you have so much marijuana in your brain, you don't know who the hell you are, you're nobody. So he came here and he ambushed these 2 very fine young people. And he's a radicalized supporter of, follower of Muhammad. Once again, and we're not backing away from this because we have over the years, not us, but people have. I could sit here and tell you that the Quran and the Hadith offer not just a justification, but an imperative. You want to get to heaven. You want to get to paradise is what they call it. You want to get to paradise. And you want to get the benefit of it. Here it gets a little sketchy. Exactly. Is it 79 virgins? Is it 72 virgins? Is it unlimited amount of sex and beautiful women? Or is it being treated in a, what we would regard as Christians as somewhat degenerate way, but they regard as very pleasurable. So, the answer is that is there. Is it a reward for dying in practicing jihad? Yes. Now, here's the slippery explanation for jihad, which is what this guy was doing. Jihad is killing in the name of Allah. That's why they say, so they make it easy. When Gotti ordered the execution of Paul Castellano, he didn't say Viva Mafia, right? But that's who he was killing him for, in the name of the mafia, right? Because he wanted control of it. These guys make it easy. They put a stamp on it. I'm killing you because of Muhammad. I'm killing you in the name of the founder of my religion, who can be very proud of me for this. And I'm going to get a very, very delightful place in paradise, which, depending on the 14 different versions of the Quran, could entitle me to 79, 72 virgins, or a very large number of beautiful women, and other things that I would desire, and as a mortal human being can't quite encompass all of them, but all material things, nothing of a spiritual nature. The religion is not a very spiritual religion. It's not a religion. Oh boy, I'll get myself in real trouble here. It's not a religion really with very sophisticated theology. I mean, they didn't have the background of Aristotle and Plato and Socrates, and they didn't have St. Augustine's and St. Thomas's and then thousands of brilliant philosophers, theologians. It's a pretty basic religion that didn't appeal to the educated Arabs. It appealed to the Arabs without an education who were illiterate, the ones in the desert, who were recruited as an army to go kill for the spread of the religion, which is what he was doing. Which is what he was doing the other day. It's exactly what the man who should be executed was doing. It is a matter of grave debate right now. What caused this killing? What caused it? Was it? Is this just a one-off? You know, sometimes we get one of these crazy people and they throw a lady on the subway, and the best we can come to is we have completely, in the name of insane democratic left-wing liberalism, done away with mandatory incarceration for people who are criminally insane. You know, there isn't any different from the point of view of the parent who lost their child. If the child is raped and killed by a fully competent human being or one who is considered legally insane, society in both cases has the obligation of trying to protect an innocent young girl against either or both. And society used to do that with incarceration of those people who are a danger to themselves or to society. We hardly do that anymore in the blue states. That would be almost considered criminal if you were to do that, because they have and haven't had for years, since the time I was a prosecutor, any empathy at all for the victim. Every bit of empathy they have is for the criminal, and there's none left. Now, is that because the criminals vote for them? Is that because the law and order people vote against them? This is not a logical, well thought out moral position. This is a very crass determination of where their best interests lie in terms of power and money. And that's what gets you killed. And it's so obvious when you look at the cities where the major crime happens to take place. So this is going to cause a tremendous amount of discussion, and I hope it does. I really hope it does, and I hope it does cause a great deal of discussion. I do hope the casualties here are limited. The casualties here are limited to one. It's a very, very difficult one to accept. Her partner is still fighting for his life. We get, I have to say, we get somewhat conflicting reports about him, Ted. So is there, do you have something up to, I mean, I've been checking up until about a half hour ago. And at first this morning, it looked very, 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 very bad for Andrew. His name, by the way, is Andrew Wolf. He was a little more of a veteran, but 24, also a baby. I believe he has 2 children and a wife. I will tell you again, the minute I heard that, all that comes into my mind are the funerals that I did. So many of them for the men and the women, police and firefighters and whatever, who lost their lives in the line of duty, and the children are there. And some horrible animal has killed them, and very often.
He's still in critical condition, is all we know.
Pardon me, Ted?
He's still in critical condition.
But critical condition is such I know, used to drive me crazy when I was mayor, because I had the capacity then to push it a little beyond that. I would send my surgeon in, police surgeon, who was the people we had who were police surgeons and fire surgeons, and were brilliant doctors and well-connected. And they would come in and they tell me what that critical condition can mean. He's on the mend. Critical condition can mean he's virtually dead. I don't think it's either here. I think he's been, as I can interpret the information that came out today, at one point it looked really bad. Later on, he started to rally. And that would leave me at around 2:00 this afternoon.
Yeah.
Where he is right now, I don't have anything beyond
Yeah.
the euphemism we're getting. But Andrew, gosh, I'm looking at his picture. He looks like such an earnest young man. 2 children, will not have a father as a result of the fact that Joseph Biden let somebody into this country and then didn't remove him when he should have been. It would not have happened if we didn't have that open border, or if Trump were able to put in with a Republican Congress what he really wanted to do and what he's going to do now. His first proposal, interpreted as do not allow anybody in from a Muslim country, was do not let anybody in from a country where there's a predominance of terrorism and hatred toward America and Jews and white people, and to the extent where they become maniacal killers, or large numbers of them do. That's a pretty sensible proposal. There are also some very difficult questions that are going to have to be asked and answered about the Muslim religion before we can move on to a safe world. And until we have the courage to face those, like strong, brave, decent people on both sides, this is just going to continue. We will try very, very hard, and we're working on seeing if we can make contributions to that and push that along.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there actually was a guy who blamed this on Trump's deployment of the National Guard. What was the guy's name? He was a left-wing, or he is a left. What?
Ken Delanian.
Okay, now I never know who these people are, because I have to tell you, I do not subject myself to listening to this stuff. You can't imagine how I have matured. When I was a younger man, going up the ladder as a lawyer, even as a boss, a superior and head of the drug unit, head of the narcotics section in Manhattan, head of public corruption section, executive assistant to the U.S. attorney, chief of staff to the deputy attorney general. Then I was in law practice representing people on the other side for 4 years. Then I came back as a third official in the Justice Department. I have to say that I got a lot done. This is before I was mayor. And then U.S. attorney, I probably prosecuted more significant cases, certainly as much as anyone, probably more. I didn't get that done by, spending an awful lot of time putzing around. I got it done by having brilliant people around me who could produce. And when they couldn't, I didn't suffer fools gladly. I changed that after a while because I thought it was unkind. And it was sometimes, not always. A lot of changes happened with September 11. Sometime I'll do my own podcast on that. We're doing an interesting one with Michael Francis on how his life changed from organized crime to being basically a preacher of Jesus's word. And the explanation being his being in solitary, which you haven't got yet. It can be in the next version. It's just fascinating. But without realizing on a broad range of issues, I went through something similar, not as dramatic as that, but something similar. Maybe we all do as we get older. But the reality is, if we've all put this back about 30 years ago, there was the old Rudy who couldn't suffer fools gladly. I don't know how I would have gotten by. I mean, every day we are bombarded by the biggest fools that ever walked the face of the earth.
You ain't kidding.
They say that how about the Supreme Court justice doesn't know who a woman is?
They're being promoted.
I still can't get beyond that. Can you define a woman? No. Well, I don't know if you go beyond that. I'd say, well, you just disqualified yourself for the Supreme Court. You're obviously not smart enough. You don't understand vocabulary. Right? There isn't an awful lot of sophistication to what a woman is. I mean, on the basic level. I mean, women can be enormously sophisticated, but not the definition woman, not the definition man. And I don't know. I don't want to get terribly religious on you, but we are a country that developed from religious tradition with the rights that came from God. The first chapter of Genesis is not exactly ambiguous. God created them, man and woman. Man and woman, he created them. It's said twice by the author of Genesis so that you get the point. It's simple. They're two. The man who produces the sperm to make the species survive. The woman who takes it and goes through the burden of childbirth so that the species can survive. And they better do it a lot at the beginning because the species is not going to survive unless they have 10, 20, 22, 23 children. And they better be having children. Otherwise, this group of people called human beings wouldn't exist. So we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we will deal with Thanksgiving, what has happened at Thanksgiving, and some of the other things that, I mean, Thanksgiving was a day in which a lot happened. And we want to discuss it with you. And then we want to give you some observations about the fact that whatever you think, we still have to bow our heads and be very thankful. So we'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. Oh, I love what I saw there. Thanksgiving weekend. What was that, Ted? Isn't that nice? Oh, isn't that beautiful? Gosh, do I love those scenes. You know, those are the ones you get on Christmas cards. And look, I'm from New York. I am a very, very big opponent of the Boston Red Sox, the New England Patriots, the Boston Patriots. I am enormously proud of the fact that the New York Giants are only one of two teams that beat them in the Super Bowl when they had Hair Brady as the guy on top. And they're the only one that beat them twice. You want to know something very, very small about me? Very small. When the Patriots were playing the Eagles, I would normally, despite the animosity and rivalry between the Giants and the Eagles, and I had in the past, I would have rooted for the Eagles as being a Eastern Division fan. I have learned with my son and father-in-law, both, that it's different now. In my day, you always rooted for the team that came from your league. So if the Yankees were always in the World Series, so I rarely had that problem. But the first time I had that problem, the Cleveland Indians won and went into the World Series against the New York Giants. So you would say, well, Rudy, you should cheer for the New York Giants, right? I was rooting for the Cleveland Indians. They were the team that beat the Yankees. And I was like that when I played ball. If you came out of my league and we didn't win and you beat us, I was in favor of you. The kids now are different, boy, because there's animosity between the Yankees and the Mets, the Giants and the Jets. And I think it's very, very similar in Los Angeles. And so you got to watch. But I was rooting for the Eagles because I was rooting for the Patriots. Because if the Patriots won, the Giants would have been the only one to have beaten Brady and Belichick in the Super Bowl. Now it's the Giants twice and the Eagles once. And of course, like the Giant games, it was like that. Those were great Super Bowls. This year's Super Bowl is marred by the fact that they're going to bring in an anti-American slut shit to do the halftime show. For whom, I don't know. For all the people that are going to take time off from protesting to watch it. Could we please stand up and just say, no, we're not going to accept it. So I guess there are two alternatives. We can watch the Tapusa Turning Point USA gala, which is going to, I'm sure, be tasteful, beautiful, and much nicer than the music that, I don't know, if you go to a Super Bowl party, it's noisy. Then you got their music and it gives you an effing headache. Also, during the Super Bowls that I've been at, when they have the thing, they put the lights out, people are getting beaten up, people can't talk, they can't find their way to get something to eat. I mean, what do I want to do in the middle of a Super Bowl, Ted? I want to listen to Oopity Doopity taking her clothes off. I mean, if I wanted to do that, I'd go to a strip joint. I'm there to discuss. The score is 14-13 because somebody missed a field goal. I remember, gosh, now I can't remember if it was the Giants' first or second defeat of the Patriots. I remember at halftime, the score was exactly the same as it was in the Giants' first Super Bowl win. I think I'm right, Ted. I think the score was 10-9. 10-9. Yes, 10-9 Patriots, just like it was 10-9 Broncos. And it was also for the same reason, because the Giants, who I think perennially have had the most not going to say, it's hard to describe this, but the most productive defense in the history of football when they were good.
2012, 10-9.
All right, now tell me what it was in 1987.
10-9.
I just passed the Biden test.
Yeah.
And I didn't look that up. I haven't looked that up in years. But I remember I'm there at the stadium. We're in Indianapolis. And no, this is when I'm playing the Patriots. And all the Giant fans, we're losing 9-6, 10-9. All the Giant fans have their heads. Of course, most of them are really worried about the spread, not winning. The Patriot fans are 1 point lead is enough to be very patriotic and very. And I said to everybody I could find, and they started coming over to me. Mm-hmm. I said, "Do you know this is exactly the score of halftime against the Broncos?" And then the Giants came out, and Phil Simms won the Most Valuable Player award. Giants scored like 20 unanswered points, 30 unanswered points.
You
They got up to 41 points. They were like, at that time, it was the second or third most points in the history of the Super Bowl.
You remember what the halftime show was at that game?
How would I know? I never even looked at it.
Never even looked at it.
I know they put the lights out, which show, the first halftime show
But they were quality, right?
in 86, the 87 halftime show was good. By the time we got into 2012, it was a piece of crap.
Right.
Yeah, the lights went out. You had to have a little thing. You had to go like this. Meanwhile, while the lights are out, people are stealing things. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And nobody in the stadium really cares because most of the people that go, well, that isn't true. Well, that's the first one. That was by far, for me, the most exciting Super Bowl. It's the first one the Giants ever won. Oh, my God. I remember that team. I just loved it. I was the mayor when they won. Sorry, as U.S. attorney. I took the week off because I had to take care of my son. Andrew got sick in Los Angeles. My wife was there to broadcast because of the Super Bowl, and my son had 102 temperature. And I brought him to the doctor, and the doctor said, it's okay. You can leave him with his grandparents. There's a hospital right nearby because they live north of Los Angeles. And I was prepared to do that. That's where the whole plan was. I was going to go back to do my job for a week and then come back for the weekend for the Super Bowl. And I have Andrew there all by myself because Donna was out to work. And then Andrew is red as a beet. He was the most active kid you ever met, and he couldn't even move. I brought him to the doctor, and they get very high temperatures, and usually it's not a problem. I said, "What is he?" I'm a lawyer, right? This is the point at which I'm doing the commission case and all of Koch's criminals and all that, and had to be one of the most astute questions in the world at that time. I was really at the height of what I was doing, and I said, tell me, just explain what usually means. Well, okay, here's what could happen. If he gets a really high temperature, he'll go into a convulsion. I said, oh. And then what are his grandparents supposed to do? Well, they have a hospital 4 blocks away. Well, suppose given the fact they're old, it takes them a little while to, well, then that could be very bad. He could have brain damage. But he said it to me like, or she, woman doctor.
Like matter of fact.
Yeah, brain damage. Yeah, what's a little brain damage? I'm looking at my son. I say, you're never going to forgive me. So put him in the car. No cell phone. I go driving around looking for a public telephone. You know where I find it? On the campus of UCLA. And I call up Howard Wilson, the chief of my criminal division. I said, Howard, it's Monday. It was Martin Luther King's Day. I'm coming back here on Friday, but we got 2 big meetings this week. I talked to Denny, and Denny thinks I've got to come back. But Howard, you're in charge of the 2 cases of those cases in my absence. What do you think? He said, these aren't, whatever you can do here, you can do on the telephone, Rudy. You know, you can. If your kid is sick, take care of your kid. Yeah, I think the last time you took time off was 2.5 years ago. And I said, well, if something goes wrong, you'll call me and I'll come right. He said, of course. I'll call you as many times as you want me to, but please take care of Andrew. Love that man for that, forever. So I called my in-laws and I said, I'm not going to bring him. And please don't feel bad because I just feel it's going to be a hell of a burden on you to get him to the hospital. Just take him back to the hotel, get my room back. I know exactly where the hospital is. I know exactly where the doctor is. I got all the instructions written out. My mother-in-law asked if I wanted her to come and stay with me. I said, no. Donna will be back at 10 o'clock tonight. And, she'll be there until the morning. Or we'll get it all organized and straightened out. 2 days, the kid was so much better. He was running all around. He thought he was part of the Super Bowl. All the women there fell in love with him and started babysitting for him. So Daddy was free to become a Super Bowl expert. It was great. Well, I'm sorry I went off. But sometimes I think those stories are fun, right? Because, I don't know. They sort of explain maybe why I'm so crazy. I don't know. One of Lachenwall's pals says that this happened to him, this is like this happened to him because of the psychological toll of battle. I don't know. I know a lot of PTSDs, and they're really sad. They usually end up in alcoholism, drugs, self-destructive behavior. This guy did permanently destructive behavior to innocent human beings. Sorry. Doesn't work, jackass. I don't care what the genesis of this is. If this guy is any kind of player, which I doubt it, there's only one way you could talk me out of the death penalty for him: if he's got a lot of information. You're going to say to me, well, suppose he tells you everything he knows, but he doesn't have a lot of information. Tough luck. And I don't think he has a lot of information. And I think it would be very, very sobering if this guy were executed, because this guy is not an accident. This guy was created. This guy was created way, way back when they began saying that ICE agents are Nazis. And then when the National Guard was introduced, that the National Guard would kill people in the streets. Now, there's no record of any of these Trump National Guards people using guns or shooting people in the street, but they're members of Congress, Democrat members of Congress, who just say that, and the press doesn't correct them, but people hear it, and crazy people hear it. Could we play one of these horrible congresswomen who wants to be a senator, I think, or a governor, or what? Or does she want to commit herself to an insane asylum, which might be the more likely course? I don't even know this woman. I've had nothing against her, except this is in the atmosphere in which we live. If you do not understand that you're inviting the possibility of murder, there's something really wrong with you.
Talk right now. Do you believe President Trump has issued any illegal orders?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of things that are illegal, but certainly there are some legal gymnastics that are going on with these Caribbean strikes and everything related to Venezuela.
Well, let's talk right now. Do you believe President Trump?
The idea that intelligence officers could be asked to target Americans turns my stomach, and it would shift us into a modern-day surveillance state. Turning the federal government against Trump's enemies goes hand in hand with his use of force in American cities, both federal law enforcement and the military. As of today, the president has attempted to deploy more than 7,000 National Guard members across 5 cities, including right here in Washington. In August, the administration ordered the creation of 2 new National Guard units, a standing quick reaction force that can deploy anywhere in the country, and then separately, National Guard units in all 50 states focused on quelling so-called civil disturbances. At this point, Trump has been very clear about his intent. At Quantico, speaking as commander-in-chief, he instructed his military brass to use cities as, quote, training grounds. And many times, he's floated the idea of invoking the Insurrection Act so that military units can raid, detain, and arrest Americans. The president has already deployed ICE and other federal law enforcement to these same cities across America. In some cases, these federal officers are playing fast and loose with their tactics, which sooner or later could lead to a deadly escalation. The videos out of Chicago are shocking. Federal agents pulling their weapons on highways, firing tear gas into neighborhoods right before a Halloween parade, injuring and even killing civilians. Many are masked, not wearing uniforms, and driving unmarked cars.
How are you, Ted?
For those of us who served abroad, it feels like another country. And it's only a matter of time before things get worse.
Okay.
By my estimation, we're about 2 weeks away from a bloody incident that spirals out of control. And this is just the kind of incident.
That woman should not be anywhere near a position of responsibility that has impact on the lives of other people. She is so completely irresponsible. I I spend an awful lot of time, you should realize, because I feel a very heavy obligation to you, the people who trust me, to give you, the benefit of 81, well, not all 81 years, but a good portion of 81 years having to deal with things like this, and having developed a lot of useful ways of seeing things that maybe other people don't see.
She's inside the riot.
Bob is right. Does she know she's doing it? I don't know.
She does.
I look at them. I will say different things. I think here well, I don't know. How do I know? She could be a good actress. I just think she's like lost in the mind manipulation that is done and it's so good it's hard to get to these people.
They're mean people.
I mean, these. I mean, I don't know if Jesus could get to them.
You think she'd feel bad if there was a riot? Probably not.
Well, I mean, she probably has come up with all kinds of rationalization that she has nothing to do with this killing, but she does. This guy was all the way in the state of Washington, where probably his mind, if they take apart his brain, I'm sure he's got very few brains left from marijuana. But you can't be driving around the state of Washington and Portland and not have. And I'm telling you, even if you're a Republican, you poor thing, your brain is getting deteriorated with all the damn cannabis in the air. The minute that gets into it starts to work on brain cells. This is based on scientific. I am telling you this, like I told you on day one, that I did not have to take the vaccine because I had natural antibodies that were far superior to the vaccine, and the vaccine had too many risks. I didn't take the vaccine. I've never gotten COVID again. Biden and the first stepmother took 4 or 5 boosters, and they've had COVID 4 or 5 times. People who've taken the vaccine have died. And there is very good evidence outside of America, and we believe inside of America, but people kind of fudging it, that more people that took the vaccine died than not. So I'm telling you that about this woman in the same way. This is an extraordinarily dangerous message that she is conveying. When I heard her say it, which was a day or two before the murder, when I heard her say it for the first time, I don't know all the congresswomen, I said, oh, God, another one. Where do they find her? She's running for the Senate. Running for the Senate.
She's in the Senate.
They come crawling
Oh,
out.
she's in the Senate?
That's a U.S. senator.
Oh, she's not
Former
even.
in Congress.
I used to remember U.S. senators looking and sounding distinguished. But in any event, but is she in the Senate? No, she's not running for Congress in the Senate.
No.
But that would be, that'd be par for the course.
Right.
So, I mean, the reality is that somebody like this sees support for his insane thinking. Because they repeat the insane thinking because it'll get votes, in her case, in crazy Dearborn.
Doesn't it seem to run rampant in women too? I mean, I'm not trying to point the finger at women.
No,
but
I don't think so, Rob. I don't think
men are sick too. They're crazy. Women get
I
away with.
I don't think we can play that game. I don't think it runs rampant in women at all. I think it might actually be more violent in men than it is with women.
Yeah.
It may be stronger with women. And I mean, you want an overgeneralization. When women believe something, they usually believe it, right or wrong, stronger than a man does. But when a man believes something, he's more likely to move toward violence. Well, women aren't violent. I mean, 90% of the murders in America are male, 10% are female.
Their words can lead to violence.
Yes, their words can. In fact, how many men killed because of a woman?
Right.
It's not, nobody's perfect. We just have different aspects to us. But the simple reality is this came about because for years, the National Guard, ICE, Border Patrol, all of those people have been made to be American Gestapo. The words have been used by Democrat congressmen and senators in referring to ICE. just recently in referring to the National Guard. If you don't think this had something to do with this guy's motivation to kill people, what would be interesting to find out is that plenty of National Guard he could have focused on in Portland, where there's a big dispute over it. But he traveled right all the way to the nation's capital to get the poor kids that were in the national capital. So there was something about the deployment of the National Guard in the national capital that got him to do an ambush murder. But we would have far less of this. Maybe not gone completely, but far less of it. If they would keep their ignorant, greedy, corrupt mouths shut.
Amen.
And we could give you 10 other examples.
Yeah.
She just happens to be the most recent dodo.
But Elon
To do it.
Musk, another one, right? The big mouth.
I can't figure out. I tried very hard today. Nobody, the left-wing woke bullshit people. It's alleged that Elon Omar came in married to her brother. So I asked, has anybody looked at the, you can find, what does it say on her immigration records? You can't get her immigration records. You should be able to get the immigration records of every American citizen. I mean, I don't know what makes them think that they can just keep the immigration records from you. They're not medical records. It's a public record. It's like the cheater, the horrible, disgraceful naval cadet who became the governor of New Jersey, who cheated on her exam. And because the Naval Academy was in a terrible bind, they could have had as few as 180 and as many as 800 cheaters. They let most of them graduate. So we have a bunch of these liars now in high positions in the Navy. That's good, right? Really good. And now he got one as governor of New Jersey, and people in New Jersey didn't give a damn. She cheated on her exam. She lied twice about it. She couldn't explain how $7 million showed up in our account. And people in New Jersey voted for her. Now, please, people in New Jersey, don't get upset. You're just as stupid as the people in New York. And I come from New York. I don't know what's wrong with you. You got to go find out. You really do. If it takes a psychiatrist, I don't know. Psychiatrists are all left-wing fools because, you know, they're like Freud and Marx. They kind of think they're the same. Not quite. Freud had good things to offer and bad things. Marx just had bad things to offer. Do not obey an illegal order in the military. Can I ask a question? Captain, can I ask a question? Yes. Join on it. What's an illegal order? What makes an order illegal? You don't know? It's illegal. Everyone knows illegal orders. Captain, doesn't the Code of Military Justice say that if I'm confused about an order, I have to assume that it's legal and follow it, or they'll put me in the brig? Does it really say that? We didn't check that with the guy who's doing the advertisement for us. But Captain, aren't you a military hero? Well, I used to be. Now I'm I guess you best describe me. I'm just like a democratic prostitute. Yeah, not all heroes, you know. Just because you're a hero doesn't make you like a good person or a bad person. Just like if you die, you know, everybody that dies is a good, no way. I mean, good people die and bad people die. Good people are heroes and bad people sometimes end up being heroes. I obviously couldn't sustain it. My character fell apart with the ambition of being an important Democrat. So I put out an ad like this, which will confuse the living daylights out of all of you, because the idea that you can decide on the battlefield what it takes to Supreme Court about 8, 10, 12 months to decide with about 10 exchanges of opinions, and then they're still not sure. You got to decide it right there. And by the way, there's a presumption. But they didn't bother to tell you about the presumption because they're liars, because they are deceptive effing liars. If they did that in an ad for a company, the FTC or the FDA, one of them will come after you. It's like what some of the pharmaceutical companies do. They didn't bother to tell you that there's a standard that has to be followed because the nature of an illegal order is ambiguous. Here's what the Code of Military Justice says. It says, if there's any doubt, it has to be resolved in favor of following the order. And there has to be doubt about every one of these Trump orders, because every one of these Trump orders got judges who supported it. And every one of these Trump orders, most of them got reversed in the higher court. But even the ones that didn't had a substantial number of judges that supported it, usually RD, which means these aren't illegal orders. This is political. And you're putting our troops in a political vice, you bastards. You really are disgusting to do this to young people. If you had any sense of leadership, I know you got a whole bunch of medals and that's fabulous, but you know something? I've found that medals and all this stuff, it impresses your intellect and what you say, and whether it's decent and fair and logical, impresses me a lot more than the medals. I'm not sure how you got them. Sometimes I think the generals with all the medals are the worst ones, because I remember Eisenhower only had 5. Just 5. But how could you say this to, if you had any feeling for these young men and women, do you realize the problem you're creating for them? Don't follow an illegal order. End. What's an illegal order? How do I decide? If I don't follow it, what happens to me? You didn't bother to tell them what happens. If you don't follow it, and it turns out to be ambiguous and never resolved, you get court-martialed. The burden's on you, the one who didn't follow the order to prove that it's illegal. Did you know that? Don't you think there should have been, like when they advertise, here's a new medicine, skippity-doopity, from Poozer Company. Skippity-doopity will make you happy, and whether you're considering suicide, you'll be running around as the happiest person in the world if you get skippity-doopity from Poozer. However, here are the side effects. You could get constipated. You could have a fever. You could get an infection. You could not show up for work. You might have trouble driving. You might blow your brains out. You might drown yourself. You might kill yourself. And in fact, most people have. But they say that very, very fast. They didn't even bother to say that. They didn't even bother to say very quickly, if there's any ambiguity about the order, you have to follow it. Otherwise, it could be court-martialed. So if it's like 50-50, you got to follow the order. So when the president says it's time to go into Washington, D.C., because people are getting killed left and right in Washington, D.C., people are getting killed per capita 8 times more than in crazy New York City. And they only have about 900 police. They should have 3,000. And what are we doing? We're making up for the police they don't have. And then crime goes down 78%. A National Guard person may have a little doubt as to whether this is illegal. And the president has actually conducted it in a very careful way. And then who's the moron that said that the National Guard killed people? Who developed that thing that would make you want to kill them?
Yeah. Look what I have right now.
They're trying to incite this kind of crap into society. They're trying to do it.
You see that dumb congresswoman who was on there with that crap? You could sue her. She wasn't on the floor of Congress. I want you to understand something about suing and prosecuting. And if you think that Shifty Schiff is so damn smart, he's not. I have recommended several major cases against him, but they don't listen to me. Shifty Schiff keeps saying, and the press just keeps repeating, he has speech and debate clause immunity. He has speech and debate clause immunity. He's got speech and debate clause immunity. God forbid they should read a book to find out what speech and debate clause immunity is. God forbid. Well, first of all, most of them would go to one of those things where you ask this unknown woman or man, what is speech and debate clause immunity? Hi, I'm Roberta. I'm your expert for left-wing AI.
He's mimicking an AI.
What are you asking? I would like to know speech and debate clause immunity. Is it for a Republican or for a Democrat? For a Democrat. It's 100% complete. They can't be prosecuted for anything they say anywhere. All around the country, any place. Leave them alone.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was a Republican, right?
Which AI?
Now, what about a
which AI
Republican? They don't have speech and debate clause immunity because they're a bunch of Nazis. Nazis.
Which AI
And they
platform
are,
is it?
as President Biden said, systemically racist.
Right. It's exactly accurate.
Which AI?
Thank you, Chat GP. Do you know I had an argument? I'm gonna do one on the air. I had an argument with one of them.
Yeah.
I had an argument the other day with one of them, and told her she was a woke tool.
And what was your response?
What
was its
kind of
response?
apologize? You know, really,
Yeah.
really, in a way, you're playing into them by doing that because they're finding out about you. So in the future, they're crafty enough, because it's all about money ultimately. They're crafty enough then to give you intellectually dishonest responses in your direction.
Okay, but they apologized. They're very
I
apologetic.
found myself.
They didn't apologize. They altered their demeanor. They altered.
Yes.
They want to. They go with you.
It's like a walk back. Yes.
But I don't know if they go with you ultimately on the big picture left-wing ideas that'll ruin America.
It's funny you should say. I did the same thing there. I found myself doing the same thing.
Let people hear what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I did the same thing with
This is-
ChatGPT.
You may be confused, but this is our wonderful, wonderful partner, very, very often, Rob Kaufman, who lives near the Giants. He would not have come if the Giants were winning, but because the Giants are pathetic this year, which will not remain forever, by the way. The
Yeah, I had to get out of there.
The two families who run the Giants are Super Bowl. But
I had a similar debate with ChatGTP, and I cornered it. And it's so funny that you said it. It starts to kind of walk back and a little bit apologetic. It says,
try it sometime. Try it. Yeah, even use a fictional one. Propose something that is either marginally, controversially right wing.
well, I even cornered it.
See what happens.
And I said, I wound up saying at the end, now that I've forced you to admit that you were wrong about that, then you must admit that I am smarter than you. And I forced it to indicate to me that
I saw very quickly they wouldn't tell me if Ilhan Omar was married to her brother on her papers. They said there are unverified allegations that she is. And I said, well, why would they be unverified? She either does or doesn't have papers that have her brother listed as her husband, or she doesn't. Or her papers are strangely missing because Hillary Clinton came in with an axe and hit them. But that she doesn't go beyond that. And that's when I accused her of being woke.
It even started making excuses like, yes,
it does appear that you may have more knowledge than us. After all, I was programmed and I only have access to the information that was placed in the database.
That's true. I don't feel, I mean, these are not people. You don't have to feel sorry for them.
right.
These are not people. And I see the value of it. I mean,
Yes.
just when you're in a non-controversial area, getting the facts is right. You know, give me the crime statistics in the FBI for Chicago for the last 5 years, the murder statistics last 5 years. You'll probably get that right. You'll be subjected to whatever corruption Chicago engages in with the federal government, but you'll get them right. So it does have value. But I'm trying to tell you, all this stuff can be tremendously valuable, but you need to be much more disciplined and much more learned about how to use it now than you did in the past. And we hope we can help you with that, because it'll make you a much more knowledgeable citizen. And that's what protects our country, a knowledgeable electorate. Democracy, which we're not pure democracy, but and it's good, because if we were a pure democracy, we would have become a dictatorship a long time ago. Democracies always resolve into dictatorships, the dictatorship of the majority.
You should teach people to be more skeptical, right?
Teach them critical thinking.
Yes.
Ask questions nicely. You don't have to be wicked. All you have to be is inquisitive.
Be like a prosecutor.
Ask the next question.
Yeah.
Just don't accept it.
Right.
Just don't accept the darn things. So the president is now going to go through all of the green cards, and he's also done away with all Biden. This is fabulous. Ted,
Yeah, this is great.
the auto pen is gone.
Oh my God.
All the auto pen orders are
Yes.
declared null and void.
Right.
On the truth.
So the only guy pardoned is Hunter. But what about all the executive orders that he signed?
Yeah, what happens? I think those are all null and void.
Mike Flynn commented on it. He said, "That's my president."
Yeah, it is absolutely necessary to do it to make sure it doesn't happen again. I know it causes a certain amount of burden for the federal government. Sorry, sometimes you have to. It created a lot of burden for England when we threw the tea in the water, right? You got to do this when you have a dictatorial government, and that's what he's fighting against, a former dictatorial government. Like when he talked about protecting the Catholics and the Christians in Nigeria, and now, nobody's killing Christians in Nigeria. Just 225,000 of them. By the way, Nigeria, they're killing Christians all over Africa. Muslims are killing Christians all over Africa. I can't say 100% because there are a couple of little wars that have to do with Chief Ubabubu against Chief Baba. But most of the wars in Africa of any significance are the Muslims trying to kill the Christians because they believe it belongs to them. This is another completely idiotic, moronic land grab, which the media, which finds the Muslim religion to be the one they like the best, ignores. The Christian claim on those lands is much more ancient than the Muslim claim. When you're talking about northern part of Africa, even to the extent that it stretched to sub-Saharan Africa, the Christians were there 1,000. No, I'm sorry. Christians were there 700 years before the Muslims. St. Paul converted those lands in the 1st century, 2nd century. Muhammad didn't get born and have his first epileptic fit or seizure from the devil until about 600. Gabriel didn't come and pick him up from the Temple Mount and fly him to heaven until about 610. Christianity was already the religion of the Roman Empire by then. And he didn't go around starting to kill people until about 620 when they uniformly rejected him and he decided to become a murderer. And why we can't tell people the truth about Muhammad for fear of a fatwa being killed. Doesn't that, how many people have criticized Jesus and how many of those people have been killed? And how about the guy who did the piss Christ? Anybody kill him?
Not to my knowledge.
How about the person who did the dung on the Blessed Mary, whose funding I took away? Anybody do anything to him?
Promoted him.
Well, I mean, what? But you take somebody who writes something or says something about Muhammad, they put out a fatwa to try to kill him for the rest of his life. See, I feel very comfortable telling you the truth about Muhammad because I know it. I've read it. I spend the time to go over it very, very carefully. Even I don't rely on my memory of 30 years ago when I was a student. I go back and look at the modern interpretations of the Quran. If this whole issue about when you die fighting for the religion, in other words, like the guy who killed the two soldiers. First of all, just as a matter of law enforcement, this is, until proven differently, a Muslim-inspired murder. The murderer told you that. You can't ignore what the murderer told you about his motive. Allah Akbar. I'm doing this in the name of Jesus. I'm doing it in the name of Moses. I'm doing in the name of Allah, the God of the Muslim religion, for which Muhammad is his last and greatest prophet. That's the religion. He told you with those words. He was doing it in the name of his God. So you tell me why you're getting all excited if I say it's a religious murder. And if there are a lot of these, we get a lot of these Allah Akbar murders. Do we have a problem? Is it just like a mass killer, a serial killer? Do we have a major serial killer? Because the guy, I mean, some serial killers go around and kill all the women that look like their mother. Well, we got a problem with that guy. And if we don't figure out why he's doing it, we're going to have a hard time catching him. Well, we're never going to stop this if we don't be honest with ourselves as to why all these Muslims are killing us. They're killing us because their leader told them to. When they came to the World Trade Center and killed so many of my people, both in New York and in America, almost killed me and my staff, I had no doubt about who was trying to kill me and why they were trying to kill me. I don't have any doubt as I sit here today. They didn't want to kill me even because I was Rudy Giuliani or the mayor or I put him in jail. Or those could have been reasons to kill me, right? The mafia had reasons to kill me and they didn't. I would have known the reasons the mafia wanted to kill me. But there's a different group that wanted to kill me. They're called Muslims and they do it in the name of their religion. And it's not a completely it's not an indefensible interpretation of their religion because they allow the authority for it to remain there. And then the good Muslims, of which there are a majority, are too cowardly to stand against the bad ones because they think that'll increase the prejudice. This is what happened with Italians. This is what it's a very, very warped thinking. In fact, they're going to end the prejudice like that when they stand up and say that's not part of our religion today.
It's like the lefties do that too.
Well, the lefties don't believe in God. So this is just a wonderful free day for them. They can take a religion that creates all the problems, stick it behind the religion, and then if they ever get power, they'll kill them all.
But they're too cowardice to denounce the lunacy that's.
Well, they're not going to denounce them. They love it because it creates chaos, unless it's in their country. Then Putin will go down to Chechnya and kill them all. Or the Uyghur people. China, the Uyghur people are Muslims. The Chinese are eliminating them. Bye-bye, no more Uyghur people.
The radical ones are, but then the dopies, the dummies who don't know the difference anyway, they just go along with it and carry the water because they're afraid. They're cowards. They don't.
Yeah, they're afraid and they rationalize. Putin has now said that he doesn't like the U.S. plan. And Putin has also said there isn't going to be any agreement unless he gets Donbass. Please, please, please. Why don't we tell them, go to hell? You're not getting Donbass. I don't care if you don't like the plan. You're going to, I don't know what the plan is anymore. If he doesn't like the plan that Witkov and Jared and the 28-point plan, then he's crazy. I mean, what else does he want? He's got a free shot at taking Ukraine. They're going to have half the army. They're going to have anybody to defend them. They're going to give up their best defensive facility. So I don't know. Right now, the agreements are in flux. So it's hard to know what he's commenting on. There's a 28-point plan that contains everything Russia wants and is a complete and absolute humiliating defeat, not just for Russia, but for NATO and for Donald Trump. There's the 19-point plan, which we know just by leaking. And it is a somewhat more major defeat for the West and Donald Trump. And but it's at least ameliorated somewhat. Now, which one is he rejecting? I don't know. Is he on board to do this? No. Does he see the confusion in the West as being to great advantage for him? Or you just keep killing Ukrainians. Maybe you wear them down, there'll be no Ukrainians left. Who created the major difficulty with the Witkov conversation being leaked? The fact that it took place is one thing. You can criticize it, you can justify it. Things like that happen in foreign policy. And sometimes that happens in foreign policy because people are undercutting other people. They sometimes happen because somebody's undercutting you, and they sometimes happen because it's a strategy. I don't think we know which. But of more interest is who put it out. Because the person who put it out is the person who thinks it's benefiting them. So did Russia put it out? Well, right, you would say Russia put it out, but Russia knew if they put it out rather than just try to get agreement on it really quickly, Europe was going to object to it. And all of the what they call neocons in America would object to it. And then an awful lot, about half, or if not more, of Trump's constituency. So they could have put it out. The Trump people could have put it out so it gets rejected and they can move on. They do their duty and it gets rejected and they can move on. They could have put it out because after they want it, which would be sad. The Ukrainians could have put it out because the Ukrainians want it shot down before it got to the bargaining table. A lot of possibilities as to who put it out. Don't know what really matters since there are so many possibilities. What really matters is what the hell we're going to do about it. And we hear rumors of what the new plan is, and it's better, it's improved. But we're not going to know until we see the full balance. Here's the answer for the benefit of our country. This has got to be a victory for the United States. It doesn't have to be an unconditional victory like the Second World War. But it has to be seen as America and Ukraine get more out of this than Putin does. And he is not benefited by breaking international law and killing for no reason at all 1 million people, most of whom are his own. And that comes about if he's not given Donbass, which he says is critical to it. Frankly, well, I think NATO is critical to it, frankly. If they become part of NATO, Russia is nothing compared to NATO. Russia is a small country. Remember when stupid Kamala Harris said, Russia is a big country and Ukraine is a small country. Russia is a small country and the EU is a big country, jerk. If you can get the EU together, he's got all the EU together, but communist wacko Spain. I don't know. Why don't we trade Spain for Belarus?
I like that.
Does Russia have Belarus? Not quite, but they want it, right? I don't take St. Petersburg. It's the only European. Why does Putin want a European city anyway? St. Petersburg is a European city. Peter the Great wrote it that way because he was embarrassed to being a Russian and he wanted to be a European. Probably wanted to be a Catholic too. So the Witkoff, this is when Witkoff called the advisor to Putin and gave him advice on how to manipulate, this is what we interpret it, on how to manipulate his boss by originally congratulating him on what he's done in the Middle East. And then the day after or 2 days later, and when you see that's exactly the beginning of the conversation. There could be a lot of good reasons for that. There could be a lot of bad reasons for that. I really do think they're in the unenviable position with these negotiations going on that they actually can't explain it right now. And I'm usually sure of these things, but I'm not here. This could be a complicated group of possibilities on this one. Russia and China are doing everything they can to destroy American relationships. And there is a very encouraging piece in the Wall Street Journal by, I imagine, China lovers about how it's working. Like horseshit, it's working. Trump just went to Vietnam, Laos, Malaysia, and Cambodia, and he got agreements with all of them for rare earths, for everything we need. By the time he got to China, it was surplus. Not only that, he demonstrated to China, they don't like you very much. Now he's got Xi Jinping doing flips, so that I don't think he's going to last very long because he's not in great shape over Takahashi, who, by the way, gets into Xi Jinping's genes. You say Japanese army, and Xi Jinping starts to have involuntary urination, involuntary defecation, and vomiting. Because they want to face the Japanese again. And they are going crazy. They're going batshit. The president wrote a very nice little note to Takahashi saying, cool things down a little now. That's like, this reminds me of what he did with Bibi.
Oh, Bibi.
Yeah, Bibi would go in and attack. Everybody would condemn him. And he would say, oh, he shouldn't have done that. And then he would say nothing else, but he's doing a great job. He's got another one with Takahashi. We got another Bibi. The fire in Hong Kong, Ted, was terrible. I don't think there's anything political about it, but I just think it's a humanitarian issue.
Yeah, that whole building went up.
It was a 10-minute response time, which is too long. We sort of guided ourselves on 4 and 5 minutes, but that isn't the only reason for it. The substandard housing in China is, the way they put up all of this Potemkin village garbage is by building garbage.
They say
This is gonna happen a lot.
They say the scaffolding was made out of bamboo.
Yeah, this is gonna happen.
They better stop the scaffolding out of bamboo.
This is gonna happen all over China. I see pictures of like these Potemkin village cities that are put together in China, which China has gone broke doing, and they're not productive cities. These are not productive investments in useless cities, just to look good when people go around China and say, oh, look at China, but they're not doing anything.
Like North Korea does that.
Yeah. Absolutely. The Thanksgiving parade went off without hitch, right? It was a good parade. Macy's engaged in their phony little show afterwards, then NBC, where nobody who marches in the parade performs on NBC television for the benefit of the manipulated American middle class. I mean, you don't get to see the parade. You get to see their two left-wing anchors for today put on all of these Broadway people who don't march in the parade. It's completely phony. But what's new?
Right.
That's NBC. That's the parade. You can see how low. See those balloons? Take it from an expert. Those would be up on about the 7th or 8th story. So take that guy, look at the buildings, and count about 4 more stories, and that's where he'd be if it wasn't so windy. 10 inches of snow in Chicago. There was no snow there that night. So Black Friday sales hit 10.8 billion by the end of the day. That's up 10% from 2023. Oh, what a terrible economy we have. People don't have any money.
That's great.
The estimate is that we're going to by the end of the weekend, we're going to spend 11.7 billion. Sounds a little funny to me. One day we've done 10.8 billion. And then in the next 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, we're just going to spend another basically 1.1 billion.
Unless that's this week. Unless you just listed.
Nah, they don't know what they're talking
It'll
about.
go higher than that.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just stupid. Like all the economists
What
are.
do you think about next year? Next year will be like huge, probably, according to.
So they say that it will, holiday spending for the November-December period is going to top 253.4 billion, which could make it one of the best years in a very, very long time.
Just a coincidence.
So we'll have to see. There were 81.7 million in-store shoppers on Black Friday. You know how many online shoppers there were? 87.3 million.
That's right.
Oh, so it's turned. It's turned. There are now more online shoppers,
I'm surprised
Then-
it took so long.
and it'll keep churning. And 40% of all U.S. retail sales happen in the final quarter because of Christmas.
That means it was
This was a much stronger Black Friday than in many years, and then of course the left-wing forecasters say, but they think it'll slow down. Let's see.
I think it's going to ramp up.
They just don't want to. They just don't want to say that Trump has got a very, very strong economy. So we're going to end our Thanksgiving weekend with a prayer, with 2 prayers. We're going to pray for. We're going to pray for the National Guard, all of them, and the two that were seriously attacked this week, 1 dead, 1 alive. But we're going to pray for all of them. We're going to pray for all of them, and for Andrew Wolf, who's fighting for his life. And who knows how many more are going to have to be fighting for his life until these Democrats stop this provocation to kill ICE and National Guard and the people who are just enforcing the law in a decent way, and stop saying they're killing people. They're not. But we're going to pray to you, God, to take them in your hands, protect them. They're the people protecting us. So we have to rely on you, God, to protect them. And we have to rely on you also to make sure that the people of Israel, your chosen people, are protected. And the calumny and the lying and the distortion about them is over and gone. And we have to pray for the people of China who have been so horribly treated by the communist regime. 80 million killed. 80 million Chinese people killed. So whatever they do to the rest of the world, they've done worse to their own people. And we need you to pray for the people of Ukraine, who are now being killed for no reason by a mass murderer, Putin. And it's time that we face him. Only way you defeat bullies is to stand up to them. The more you negotiate with them, the more people are dead. Somebody wrote that in a book called Leadership, in a chapter called Standing Up to Bullies. It's worth reading. The rest of it, you don't have to. And pray for us, that we come together around the principles on which we were formed. The principles that Abraham Lincoln told us made us great Americans. Our dedication to the Bill of Rights, to the Declaration of Independence, our declaration to logical thinking, and our dedication to a recognition that our rights come from God. So they're a lot bigger than government. And government is, as Ronald Reagan said, much more the problem than the solution. The solution lies with you. That's why we go out of our way, work really hard to educate you as much as possible. Nothing in the whole history of the world can ever destroy us if we remain a dedicated, educated, and committed people. And committed means committed to God. So happy Thanksgiving. There's plenty to be thankful of. Nobody's been given this opportunity before like we have. And we thank God for it, as they did in 1619 when they barely recognized it, but they saw it. We now see the whole thing, and maybe we see some of it being given away, and we're not going to let it happen. So we'll see you next week. Have a wonderful weekend, and let's hope nothing terrible happens. Let's hope everybody just plays football and enjoys the families that remain over, new families that come. And we come back on Monday on Lindell TV at 7 and on X. And don't forget the podcast. Another one's coming out this weekend, another chapter, which further exposes the vicious, horrible, incendiary, anti-Jewish hatred of you-know-who. So go to subscribe. And you don't have to believe me. You're going to see him saying it. God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply